I so fully believe that you have a purpose, a contribution, a thing that you give to society that will make this world a better place. I believe in your heart, and I believe that the reason that you want to do this is because you want to make a difference. And so I don't want to see you play small. Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. This is the Conscious Edge podcast, and I'm Alecia St. Germain, entrepreneur and coach. Along with my friend and wellness advocate, Jonathan Duggar, we're diving into what it means to embody radical self-acceptance while still evolving to lead with compassion and kindness. We're sharing our own experiences and expertise as we unpack imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, and all the other things that lead to burnout and keep you from experiencing pure joy, business growth, and maximum impact. This is a safe and supportive space to explore what it means to be a human creating wealth and building a business. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. So recently, I asked entrepreneurs to tell me what their top 3 struggles in business were that they could use some support around. And it's very fascinating to me, Jonathan. People said marketing. And these were seasoned people telling me that marketing was one of their top challenges, and it kept coming up over and over and over and over again. So that's what we're going to dig into today. I am your host, Alecia St. Germain. This is the Conscious Ed podcast, and I'm here with Jonathan Duggar, who is a friend of mine. We've been having these amazing conversations for years behind closed doors. And so we decided to start a podcast, and it's been almost a year now. We're coming up shortly. We'll be at 10 more episodes, and we'll be at 52 episodes. So
holy mackerel, how'd that happen?
I know. Super cool. So if you've been with us since the beginning, it's so funny. My friend Shannon says that she gets bummed out that she listened from the beginning, because when she gets into binging podcasts, she's already all caught up. So thank you if you've been with us for a long time, and we appreciate all the support, and we love having you. And if you're new here, of course, welcome. Make sure you hit that follow button so that you hear our new episodes coming out every single week. So let's talk about marketing. Now, here's the fascinating thing I asked myself and them. Is it that you don't know how to market? Because these are all experienced business owners, meaning they have done business and made money in their businesses. They have bought properties. They have got clients. So how is it that they're telling me they don't know how to market because they've found ways to get clients and to make money in their business? So I find that fascinating.
That's probably not marketing that's lacking. It's probably the understanding of themselves and what they are providing and how they're providing it and the value in it.
Yeah.
That's lacking.
Yes. I always find that interesting. I'm like, and in fact, to the point where I called up a friend of mine who's really active in real estate and finding deals. And I said, hey, I'm curious, is there like some new marketing tactics that are used in real estate? Like, how do people find deals nowadays? Is what I said. How do people find deals nowadays?
Did you say it just like that?
I did say it just like that. And it was interesting because there was a period of time when everything was shifted online. It was like, oh, it's all about driving traffic to your website, and you got to have a website, and all of these tactics for digitally marketing to find real estate. And I'm using real estate as one of those things, but you could be, I mean, this is anybody. I got to have a website. The first thing I hear is like, well, I have to have a website and it has to look good. But if you're not driving traffic to the website, it doesn't really matter if you have a website.
Exactly.
But the internet has become really noisy. Like,
yes,
ridiculously noisy. And then marketing on social media is really a pay-to-play sort of environment where if you're not paying to be seen, you might not be seen.
Yeah. And also very noisy and chaotic.
Also very noisy and chaotic. And God forbid if you accidentally click on like something that you don't want to see, and then all of a sudden your feed is flooded
everywhere.
with, yes. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So what do people do to market? And so he was like, well, you send mailers to distressed properties. And I'm speaking on the real estate terms, but people are going more offline with their marketing. And they're going back to old tactics that I have known since the beginning of my investing, grassroots, like going and networking, going and speaking on different topics. So a lot of things going back offline. So what I took away from that conversation is there's literally nothing new or cutting edge about marketing. So I find it really interesting. I mean, really, there's not.
No.
And if you don't believe, or if you're saying I'm wrong, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But overall, I think people know how to market, but they might be telling themselves they don't because they're looking for some magic pill.
Well, I mean, they're being marketed to that way too, because I mean, if you're on any sort of mainstream business podcast, some of the talk groups on LinkedIn, follow stuff on social media, someone's always talking about newer and better. You know, whether it's funnel or whether it's a way to tweak your Instagram or whether, and all those things are relevant. I mean, there's some relevancy there, but when you boil it down to kind of the how-to level, it's all the same. It's variations of the same. And it's not about the delivery system. It's about how it's being delivered and what's being said as part of that delivery. So I think that's the part that people need to feel more empowered with instead of some new marketing gimmick or new marketing tool. They need to track back to more personal growth, personal development side of how do I align my core values? How do I align my true beliefs, my core beliefs with what I'm saying, doing, and providing?
So I don't think the question is, how do I market? I think the question is, which type of marketing is going to be a good fit for me?
Yes. And maybe how do I build my brand around a place of authenticity and alignment? You know, I call it heart-based branding or heart-based marketing.
Yeah. So I think that's really the question that people, so that's one thing is, how do I market? And then the other thing is people are inconsistent with their marketing. So they do it and then they get busy fulfilling on whatever it is, you know, doing the rehab and then not filling the funnel with more deals or servicing the clients that they have and not having a consistent funnel of clients coming in. And there's a couple things there that I could address too. But let's start with what you're talking about, this heart-centered branding and marketing.
Yes.
What is that like? All right, take us through it. You do this.
I wrote down sort of key aspects of what I consider to be heart-based or heart-aligned branding and marketing. So a few of those would be the authenticity. So you've got to be true to your own values and your own mission in terms of what you're providing and how you're telling people about what you're providing, or what you're telling people about what you're providing. It needs to be purpose-driven. So you need to be clear on what your intentions are and the whys, what your whys are. And that should be driving what you're doing. And that becomes part of your branding and part of your marketing.
So let me give an example of this for everyone. All right. So when I first started my coaching business, I knew that I needed to market. I needed to learn how to bring people into my business. And one of the things that kept coming up, and I talked about this on one of our really early podcasts, one of the things that kept coming up is my coaches who were marketing experts and sales experts were saying that people did not want to buy personal development and they didn't want to do the inner work. People wanted a result. So I had to come up with a tangible result, like make more money or this or that. And I was like, I don't feel really comfortable telling someone I guarantee, like almost felt like a guarantee they're going to make more money if they work with me. Well, sometimes people don't make more money when they work with me, but they realize they don't really want to make more money. They're like actually happy where they are.
Imagine that.
So that was really hard for me. And so then I would try to find some tangible result. And what kept happening was I kept sounding like everyone else out there who was doing that, maybe gave that result, but there was all these different ways of getting there. And I think sometimes you need a strategy or a tactic to get a certain result. But also, I think that there's a lot of inner work that is done around getting certain results in your business. A lot. Like,
yes,
sometimes it's a lot more than the strategy or tactic. And if the strategy or tactic isn't working, it's probably something in your brain.
That's the litmus test right there. If you have a strategy that isn't working, don't second guess the strategy. Go back to yourself and figure out, look at the delivery, look at the language, look at how you feel with what you're saying. Does something feel icky to you? Does something feel out of alignment? Does it bring you joy when you have the opportunity to tell people about what you're doing? If not, then there's probably an issue. So I think that's, you hit it right on the head.
So I started to sound like everyone else. And so I was saying to my mastermind gals, I was like, I don't really know. And then they want you, like, part of it is to go through and say, who is my target customer? Who is my avatar? Like, what do they do? What do they like? Da, 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 da. And I'm pretty clear. I work with women business owners. I'm pretty clear about that, but I don't know that I could get so specific in some of the things they were looking for. And what ultimately we came down to is I do so much better if I just keep talking about the big assumption. Like, everything that comes back to why people don't do things, exactly what we were just talking about. Like, if the strategy or tactic's not working, look inside. That's the work.
Yes.
That's what I do. That's my big assumption drum. What are you assuming to be true about the world and the way that you work in it that is causing all your strategies and tactics not to work? And so when I go out and talk about that, I was like, yeah, but are people getting tired of me talking about it? Because that's the thing. And they're like, no, it's what you believe in. It's what is everything. You believe that everything that people want in this world is just on the other side of their big assumption and unraveling that. And so why wouldn't you beat that drum like crazy?
Exactly.
So that's what I think you mean when you're talking about being in, like, aligned and heart-centered and really coming from something you truly believe in and having that excitement for what you believe in. Other people are just naturally going to get on board with what you are when you love it so much.
Yes. And it's when you have true belief, a heart-centered belief in the value of what you're doing, and your intention is to be helpful. I don't want to oversimplify this, but a lot of the marketing takes care of itself because you start building, and I'm not going to pretend this happens overnight, but you start building a network of people and practices that are self-perpetuating because there's this organic nature of how people talk about how they're benefiting and how they've improved or how they've progressed. And that word of mouth, that sort of evidentiary, I'm blanking on the word, but where you testifying, testimonial grows, and it grows exponentially over time. And I'm not trying to say this from a place of arrogance, but I don't do much marketing in the standpoint of social media presence and the things that are
the tactics.
Common tactics, common strategies these days. I don't do much of that anymore. I did more of it. I did a lot more networking when I was first starting out as a consultant, when I first left the clinical world. And even in real estate, I did a lot more going to conferences and networking events and things like that than I do now. Now I do that kind of thing more just for fun and instead of from marketing, but that engagement itself is marketing because I'm confident for the most part in what I provide and who I am and what I have to offer. And so just having those conversations, it happened to me where I'm in the process of selling a home and we had an open house the other day. Somebody introduced me as, this is the guy I was telling you about that coaches salespeople to do X, Y, and Z. I didn't say anything, but that was how I was just introduced to somebody. That's going to stick with that person. Hopefully, if I made a good impression in the conversation I had with them, then when they tell somebody else about, sorry, it comes up that somebody's needing help in their organization with whatever, if I'm a good fit, they'll say, well, I just talked to this person that does, that's what I mean by sort of this organic cascade, this exponential organic factor. But that can only happen. I truly believe that can only happen. That kind of growth and expansion can only happen organically if you start out or if you get to a place of alignment in what you say and how you say it and who you say it to.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I interrupted you because I went down the example storytelling lane. And so in doing that, you now have what's the next step? How is someone going to find that right?
Yeah, you actually hit a couple of those things. The other thing I wrote down was emotional connection. And by what I mean by that is that you bring joy. Mm-hmm. What you deliver and how you deliver it brings joy to other people. So there's positive emotion that's elicited in what you deliver in terms of your marketing or your branding. Mm-hmm. One piece that I haven't seen a lot with other coaches and other literature, but I think is really important, especially in our current society, is I think emotional or heart-based branding or heart alignment branding or marketing, that there is an aspect of community building so that people feel supported and feel like they're plugging into a support system, because that's lacking so badly in corporate culture. It's lacking with small business owners and entrepreneurs. It's lacking on the personal development growth side for people feeling like they have true and authentic alignment with a resource that's like them. And that's like how they would go about trying to grow and trying to do better.
It's like a common interest.
Yeah.
Things in common with other people.
But shared on a deeper level than just how-tos, than just informational. Mm-hmm. It's deeper than that, runs deeper than that. And then the last one I just called it customer empathy, but I didn't have a really good terminology for it. But that goes back to our previous episode where we were talking about sales, is before you market, you really need to do some upfront work to understand at least high level what your customers need. So putting yourself in their place in an authentic way and understand what's going to truly be helpful. You can't market to something that you don't know or understand. Otherwise, it's sort of a shotgun approach. You're just hoping something lands. Well, if you start from a place of empathy and compassion with building your marketing and your branding, then something's going to land in a positive way.
And I think, so that's where those customer interviews and things like that come up, or client interviews. I found them to be hugely helpful.
Yes.
From time to time, to go through and talk to people who have not worked with you yet and just find out what their needs are, what they need, what's coming up for them, what are their challenges, what problems can you solve for them, is really important, because there's what we think. I'm like, everybody needs this coaching because everybody has a big assumption. But what is it that they think is the problem? One of the things people think is the problem with their business is they think they don't know how to market. They think they're bad at sales. They think these things. And so that's part of us doing these podcast episodes, is we really want you to understand, you think that these are the things that are in the way, but it's actually way deeper than that. And it's not the strategy or the tactic that is getting in the way. In fact, this makes me think about a post I recently saw, and I often see it where a person will post on Instagram or social media or anything, and they will be working to work through the objections that people have to working with them, or the objections that people have to their products and services. And sometimes if you're working through an objection in your marketing, it's really about education and helping realign someone's thoughts to maybe what else is possible. Because all those objections people have are just their big assumptions. They're just things, the reasons they think the marketing or tactic won't work. But what happens sometimes is the person who's doing the marketing gets tired of people naysaying, or gets tired of people having their own opinions or their own beliefs about whatever it is they're selling. And they like almost take it personally. And you can tell they take it personally because then they start like saying things that are very disempowering to people. So that's where I think like when you're marketing, you also want to be aware of where you taking it personally. If you're getting crickets, or you're taking it personally and so then I hear people say things like, there's not enough deals. Like the reason I'm struggling to find deals in real estate is because there's not enough deals, or because there's too much competition, or because someone else does it better than I do. All those things that you say to yourself, those are places that you've put self-limits on. And also, there's this certain piece of marketing, don't you think, like you got to put in the work?
Yes, absolutely. It's not always the work that we sometimes focus on being busy instead of being helpful and productive. So I'll give you an example. One of my coaching clients, he's in the corporate world, but very high up the food chain in the insurance industry. And he, for a while, was going to every leadership conference on the planet. I mean, spending thousands and thousands of dollars going to leadership conferences. And he had in his mind, and I think he'd had other people coach him this way, that just by going to those and showing up at those and talking to people of like-minded, that he was going to become a more effective leader. And he got some good information. He made some good contacts. So I'm not going to say there was zero value in that, but he was not taking that and then doing the internal work to get over his own challenges with why he could be a good, effective leader. He had a lot of worthiness stuff and a lot of things that were, and he'd never had anybody work with him on owning his own challenges and figuring out what steps to take, personalized steps to take to get better and better and better at those things. So often the busyness is misdirected, figuring out, go ahead.
Well, you're talking about doing the inner work. I'm talking about like, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
So I would hear people like, well, I tried that. It didn't work. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How often and how consistent are you showing up and being visible? Or how much are you doing direct contact to the customer? If you do it one time, you're like, oh, it didn't work. People need to like have touch points with you so many times before they will work with you. I mean, typically someone is in my sphere for like 2 years before they decide to work with me. And that was and there's things you can do to tighten up that. I was like, okay, typically from the point someone meets me to the point someone says yes, it's like 2 years. What can I do to get more touch points to help people really understand, to really educate people on why this work is important and tighten it up? And I was like, a podcast would be one way to do that, right? I get a touch point with you every single week. I'm not saying you should go podcast. I'm just saying, how many times are you really touching your customers with your marketing before you're saying it doesn't work? And how consistent are you? And so there's that piece of, well, I did it once, it should work. That's the opposite of how do I say this? Then you're judging yourself when they don't.
Yes, exactly.
And so now your feelings are hurt because people didn't respond to the marketing that you put out there once or twice. And you took it personally and you're like, well, it doesn't work. That's self-protection. That's you saying, I don't want to feel this hurt anymore, so I'm just not going to market anymore. I'm going to say it doesn't work because I can't face the crickets. I can't face the amount of time that it takes to actually warm someone up and make them feel comfortable enough to call me.
I just thought of and there's probably already a book out there by this name, but I think we need to start calling this mindful marketing because what you're talking about is a judgment-loaded approach to basically sabotaging ourselves because something doesn't work exactly the way we thought it would, or it makes us feel bad. Well, if you take a mindful approach, it's all a place of curiosity without judgment, with an opportunity to learn how to do better and better and better. Refine. So, and which takes multiple trials. It takes practice. It takes exposure.
And that's where I think that belief you're talking about at the beginning, like you got to believe in what you're doing. I'm telling you, I had to believe that this coaching is so important, or I would have quit a long time ago, because the road is longer and harder than you expect it to be. And when you first get started, you're so excited about your business. You're like, yeah, I'm going to change the world. And then you market and like nothing happens. And you're like, oh my gosh, nobody wants what I have. Like, but no, I know that's the responsibility of knowing it. This is just figuring out how to say what you need to say so people understand you can help them.
Exactly. And with marketing and with branding, it's never perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. And it takes a while. It takes a while to refine and to adjust. I mean, you and I are still doing that. We're still finding sort of niche areas and key language to call things and to, things that you shouldn't call. Like I just remember an example. I was running a program for a while where I was teaching communication skills, effective communication in the corporate setting. And I wasn't getting very much response. And so I started playing with language and I changed up communication to facilitation, building team dynamic, creating rapport, creating trust among coworkers and things like that. And all of a sudden, curiosity, people are asking questions and I'm able to have conversations. And that's really all you're trying to do with marketing. You're trying to open a door enough that someone's curious enough to peek in and ask a question, look a little further, dig a little deeper.
And so I think sometimes people get caught up in how do I say this perfectly?
Yes, exactly.
Because I want to knock and I want the door to just fly wide open. And what I know you and I have figured out is you got to talk a lot to see what lands. To see that simple as that. It's being willing to be vulnerable enough to talk a lot about what you're doing and changing the approach and trial and error and see what works instead of saying, oh, it didn't work and quitting.
Yep. And that's where that customer empathy piece, that's what I was trying to describe earlier. That's hugely important and valuable in refining your marketing, because you've got to try and understand feedback from a non-judgment place from your customers or lack of feedback. When you get crickets, that's feedback. There's something that's not landing. You're not creating enough curiosity where someone's willing to send an inquiry, to respond to a questionnaire, pick up the phone, whatever it is. You're not getting to the point to actually be able to have a conversation. So again, refine. It's always a process of trying to better understand who you're talking to and what their needs are and what their challenges are and how our services or our product or our property is in alignment with those challenges or issues that the customer may be having.
Well, and to that regard, let's talk real estate for 1 second. So largely in real estate investing, like looking to buy properties, I have seen it taught in so many seminar type programs, some really straightforward, unemotional, basic marketing.
Yes.
Like, we buy houses, all cash,
I still get those letters and postcards like that.
Just like that. And so if you're saying, oh, there's too much competition, what if you said something different than your competition that actually helped the person know that you actually get them? That you actually understand where they're coming from. Go ahead.
Did I ever tell you my pre-foreclosure postcard story? You ever heard that?
No, I don't think I have.
So we used to do pre-foreclosure work in Atlanta, and this was when the Atlanta market was just starting to explode from an investor standpoint. And so often you'd go to a house that you had determined was in pre-foreclosure to leave a postcard or leave a door hanger, and there'd be 3 other ones there. So we were canvassing in a particular neighborhood, and one day I got really disheartened because there was just flyers and door hangers and things stuffed in mailboxes. First of all, I felt bad for those folks just getting inundated with, like Alicia's talking about, the kind of generic bullet pointed stuff that's not personal anyway. And so I started trying to think of ways to do it differently. And if nothing else, leave this person who's in probably a horrible situation in a lot of aspects of their life, leave them a little minute of joy, a little bit of humor. So I found this picture of this woman from the 1940s or 50s with this huge beehive hairdo. And I don't know if it's like she was caught in the wind or what, but her hair's falling over and she's got on these wire rim glasses and they're crooked on her face. And anyway, I made this postcard with that picture on it, and I put the phrase across the front that said, didn't say anything about pre-foreclosure, we can help you save your home. It said, is every day a bad hair day? There's a black and white picture on the front of the postcard. And then they turn it over and it says, we're here to help. Call us if you want more information, blah, blah, blah. And it was, but very simple, very to the point. So, put out those postcards for the first round, and then 2 weeks later followed up in the same neighborhood. Went to a door, knocked on the door. A young lady comes to the door with a book in her hand, and my postcard is her bookmark. And I'm like, yes, it landed the way I wanted it. She got a chuckle out of that, and she kept my postcard. She didn't call me, but she kept my postcard. And we followed up, and I was like, oh, you got my postcard. I had a point of contact. So, sometimes it's something that simple as coming in with a novel approach that's from a place of joy, from a place of happy, in a maybe not so happy situation or environment. So that's an example of.
I love that. Yes. To my point, it's maybe you do something different than your competition. And I often have seen, like, my mom markets in the Cleveland market for properties that are in probate. And so one of the comments she often gets is, I get a lot of these letters, but yours is the one I called because it was just so nicely written. Because it is a heartfelt letter, and it's not just this basic thing that looks like everyone else. And so there's a certain amount of, you really have to know yourself and your values and how you want to treat people and how you want to show up in the world. And what if you show up in your marketing like that?
Exactly.
Right? And the risk is you could be judged and you could be rejected. That doesn't mean that you're bad. Again, that means you're just not for everyone. And I know people hear this, I'm not for everyone, but so often I see people not being visible, not putting themselves out there, not saying what they want to say because they are prioritizing people who will never do business with them over people who legitimately need their help, and they're not getting business anyways.
Yeah.
So the very thing that you're most afraid of is that you're not going to get business. You hide from the people who will never do business with you, and you don't get business. That is the definition of insanity right there.
No, but that's so true.
That is that crazy cyclical thing that our brain does in self-protection, where it tries to prevent these bad things from happening to us. And then those bad things happen because we're not doing what we know we need to do. We're not taking the actions that we need to. So I challenge you today. I don't think you don't know how to market your business. You are smart. You can use Google. You can read a tactical book. There are so many coaches out there that teach strategy and tactic. I think you know how to market. The question is, are you not getting enough deals because you are getting in your own way?
Yes. And you're out of alignment with the words you're using and what you're saying. You don't truly believe your own worth, your own value, and your own effectiveness. So I truly believe that if you build a brand and you market from a place that reflects your deepest values and your strongest whys, your strongest powers, it will resonate. It will come through in what you say and how you say it. And the people that are supposed to work with you will show up. Mm-hmm. As long as you do the work. I'm going to want to emphasize that. Alecia said it twice, and it's super important. You know, you've got to refine, and practice.
Yeah. And we both really stand for, we believe everyone has a purpose. So like, now that I have thoroughly beat you up for not marketing, it is because I so fully believe that you have a purpose, a contribution, a thing that you give to society that will make this world a better place. I believe in your heart, and I believe that the reason that you want to do this is because you want to make a difference. And so I don't want to see you play small and say, oh, I can't because there's too much competition. I can't because of all of these reasons that you throw up. I don't know how. I'm overwhelmed. I'm too busy. I don't have time. And that's a whole nother thing we can talk about around boundary setting and how when you get to the fulfillment side of things, when it's time for you to actually fulfill on what you give, not leaving yourself enough time to continue to market and make sure that your business is sustainable and keeps bringing more business in because you're so busy fulfilling because you're afraid you're going to let people down. Like that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But you get to show up fully in this world and contribute and give out into this world. There is no question in my mind as to whether or not you have value. And wherever in your life that message that you don't came from, like we get to kick that to the curb because there are too many people in this world who are suffering and who would feel so much better with whatever solution it is that you provide for people. So with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love.
Be well, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, Women's voices amplified.